Hello, everyone on Patreon in the Hitchcock tier. Hitchaholics, thank you for voting this month on the Hitchcock actors in his film performance review. The winner this month is, drumroll please, Henry Jones in Vertigo. Now, thank you for voting. This is a wonderful performance, and he's in one scene in Vertigo on the corner. And I just want to mention off the top that the reason I wanted to focus on a lot of small performances in Hitchcock's films is because there are so many wonderful performances in his films from people who are in one scene or two scenes. And this is one scene with Henry Jones. I'm not very familiar with his filmography, but he plays the coroner in this film. And those of you who have seen it, and I'm sure you have since you voted on the performance, he is the guy who basically investigated how Kim Novak's character died. And not when she died at the end, when she died at first. And of course, as we find out later, it's not really her. It was a whole setup. Then she was hired to fake a murder and make, Jimmy Stewart and everyone else think that it was his wife. The man who hired Jimmy Stewart as a detective, his wife. So this is a wonderful performance as he wraps up, everything in the investigation on this trial as to what happened. And he's just, what's so wonderful as an actor myself is that, if you look at the dialogue, he's just basically summing up what happens. And he says, well, she fell off the roof, and because Jimmy Stewart had vertigo, he couldn't run up to her, and she was suicidal, and these people can't be blamed because, and he goes into it. And if you actually look at it, at the dialogue, it's not so obvious how this person feels about it based on the dialogue, and it's so much about what Henry brought to it from his own point of view. And you can tell that he is judging Jimmy Stewart so harshly. I mean, he's so pompous and condescending and basically criticizing him for his own mental health issues. He says to him, you can't blame him for his weakness, that he couldn't get up to the top of the tower because of his mental health issues with vertigo. And I mean, to have framed that as weak, again, the stigma against mental health, which is something that certainly still is relevant today, and he basically just tears into him, but he doesn't really say anything other than the word weak every now and then. Or he later on he says that he was incompetent. So there was a couple of obvious nudges to that where the coroner felt about all this. But what I just love, and I always encourage actors, what is your point of view, particularly with your emotional point of view? And obviously he just thought that this was ridiculous. He thought it was ridiculous that Jimmy Stewart could not get to the top, could not help this woman, and that he was incompetent. And just the way he was looking at Jimmy Stewart, the way he was talking to him in this very passive, aggressive, judgmental, distant, he's like this British upper class, very pompous type. I just thought it was so wonderful what he brought to this monologue that could have been performed in a very plain way. But he brought so much behavior to it and acting his behavior because he came with it from a point of view about the events, about he's not just saying this happened, he's not just listing off a grocery list. He had a real point of view about what he thought about it. And because the dialogue is indirect, he brought it with his own coloring and his own behavior. And it's one scene and it's remarkable acting. And when I reviewed Vertigo, I talked about this scene, because you hate the coroner. He's so mean, but it's because the performance is so great. Henry Jones in Vertigo. Henry Jones, wonderful performance. So I'm really glad that it won this month. Thank you so much, everyone, for voting, and I will see you in the next video.